You know that little house on Maple Street in Seattle where I thought I had finally found peace? The one with the white picket fence and the garden I helped plant after Dad passed away 5 years ago? I believed that living there with my mother was my safe haven, my chance to heal and rebuild after all the heartache our family had endured. But sometimes the people closest to you can shatter your world with just a few words. I never imagined that the woman who brought me into this world could look me straight in the eyes and say what she said that Thursday evening. Before I share this story with you, please let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe because you will not want to miss the incredible stories from real life that I share here. Trust me, what happened next will leave you absolutely speechless about how far family betrayal can actually go. Let me paint you a picture of my life back then. I am Ella, 28 years old, working as an interior designer for a mid-sized firm downtown. My annual salary of $60,000 was not making me rich, but it was enough to contribute meaningfully to our household expenses. After Dad died from that sudden heart attack, I made the decision to move back in with Mom to help her through her depression and grief. Our three-bedroom house became our shared sanctuary. Every month, I handed over $1,500 for my half of the rent, plus I split all the utility bills right down the middle. The electricity, water, gas, internet, cable, television, even Mom's car insurance. I took care of half of everything because I believed we were partners in rebuilding our lives together. You have to understand the sacrifices I made to be there for her. 2 years earlier, my boyfriend Marcus had proposed to me. He had this beautiful ring plans for our future dreams of starting a family together. But when he asked me to move in with him, I said no. I could not leave Mom alone in that house with all her memories and pain. Marcus tried to understand, he really did, but eventually he gave up waiting. We broke up because I chose my mother's well-being over my own happiness. I thought Mom appreciated everything I was doing. When she had those terrible sleepless nights crying about missing Dad, I would sit with her until dawn making tea and just listening. When she needed to go to her therapy appointments, I took time off work to drive her there. When she got sick with the flu last winter, I nursed her back to health, bringing her soup and medicine, checking on her every few hours. But then there was my sister Diana, 32 years old, recently divorced, and the golden child who could do no wrong in Mom's eyes. Diana lived 3 hours away in Portland with her two kids, 8-year-old Aiden and 5-year-old Sophie. These children were sweet enough, but Diana had never been good with discipline or boundaries. Every time they visited, the house turned into complete chaos. Diana had a pattern. Whenever her life fell apart, which happened regularly, she would show up at Mom's doorstep with her suitcases and her problems. She would stay for weeks, leaving messes everywhere, borrowing money she never paid back, and treating the house like a free hotel. Then once she got back on her feet, or found a new boyfriend, she would disappear again without so much as a thank you. 6 months ago, Diana's marriage finally fell apart completely. Her husband had apparently gotten tired of her spending habits and lack of responsibility. Since then, she had been bouncing between friends' couches and temporary living arrangements. I knew it was only a matter of time before she came running back to Mom again. That Thursday evening started like any other. I dragged myself home after a particularly challenging day working on a difficult client's kitchen renovation. My feet were killing me, and all I wanted was to change into comfortable clothes and heat up some leftover pasta. Mom was in her usual spot on the living room couch watching her favorite evening talk show and seemed perfectly relaxed. I was in the kitchen stirring sauce in a pan when Mom called out to me. "Ella, honey, come sit down here for a minute. I need to talk to you about something." Her tone was casual, almost cheerful, so I figured it was probably something minor about house repairs or maybe a neighborhood issue. I turned off the stove and walked over to the couch, still wearing my work clothes. "What is it, Mom? Did Mrs. Patterson complain about our music again?" Mom muted the television and turned to face me directly. Her expression was suddenly serious, but there was something else there too. Something that looked almost like excitement. "Diana is coming back home with the children. They need a stable place to live while she gets her life sorted out. Since there is not enough room for all of us, you are going to need to find somewhere else to stay." I actually laughed out loud. I mean, I literally burst into laughter because I was absolutely certain she had to be joking. "Very funny, Mom. You almost had me there for a second." But Mom was not smiling back at me. Her face remained completely serious, and her eyes held a coldness I had never seen before. I am not joking, Ella. Diana and her children need this house more than you do. You are 28 years old now. It is time for you to become independent and stop relying on me for everything. The words hit me like a physical blow. Relying on you, Mom, I pay half the rent. I pay half of all the bills. I have been taking care of both of us for 5 years. Mom's expression grew even colder as she continued. Nobody asked you to make those sacrifices. You chose to stay here instead of moving on with your life. You chose to break up with Marcus. Those were your decisions, not mine. I could not believe what I was hearing. My own mother was completely dismissing 5 years of dedication, 5 years of putting her needs before my own. But Mom, I stayed here to take care of you. You were falling apart after Dad died. You needed me. What I needed was space to grieve in my own way. Instead, I got a daughter hovering over me, constantly treating me like I was helpless. She stood up from the couch and walked toward the kitchen, speaking over her shoulder, as if she was discussing something as mundane as the weather. Diana has 2 small children who need stability. They need a real home with room to grow. You just need a place to sleep. The casual cruelty in her voice was devastating. So where exactly do you expect me to go? I cannot just magically find an apartment overnight. Mom shrugged as she opened the refrigerator and pulled out a bottle of water. You are an adult with a job. Figure it out. People your age manage to find housing all the time. Maybe this will finally motivate you to grow up and stop being such a burden. A burden. I repeated, my voice getting louder despite my efforts to stay calm. How am I a burden when I pay for half of everything? That was when Mom said the words that would change everything between us forever. She turned around, looked me straight in the eyes, and said, "Because despite paying rent, you are still just a parasite living off me. You use my house, eat my food, depend on my emotional support. Diana is bringing children who actually need family. You are just taking up space." I felt like someone had just slapped me across the face as hard as they could. Did you just call me a parasite? If the shoe fits. Mom replied, then actually smiled as she said it. Diana and the children will be here tomorrow afternoon. I would appreciate it if you could pack your things and be gone before they arrive. I do not want the children to witness any drama or arguments. I stood there in complete shock, watching my mother calmly drink her water, as if she had not just destroyed my entire world. This was the same woman I had held while she cried herself to sleep after Dad's funeral. The same woman I had driven to countless doctor appointments and therapy sessions. The same woman I had chosen over my own romantic happiness and career opportunities. That night, I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep for even a minute. The word parasite kept echoing in my mind over and over again. I started doing calculations of everything I had contributed financially over the past 5 years. Rent payments, utility bills, groceries, house maintenance, emergency repairs, Mom's car insurance when she could not afford it. The total came to approximately $45,000, but it was not just about money. I remembered all the nights I had stayed awake with her during her panic attacks, all the times I had canceled plans with friends because Mom needed me, the job promotion I had turned down because it would have required relocating to California, the relationship I had sacrificed, all of it dismissed as parasitic behavior. As I lay there in the darkness, something began to shift inside me. The hurt and shock were slowly being replaced by something else: anger, determination. If Mom wanted to treat me like a stranger, like someone with no claim to this house or this family, then maybe it was time I started acting like one. I spent the rest of the night researching tenant rights online. Since I had been paying rent and my name was on the lease agreement as a co-signer, I had legal rights that could not just be ignored. Mom could not simply kick me out without proper notice, regardless of what she believed about her authority as my mother. By morning, I had formed a plan. If Mom wanted to play hardball, I could play hardball too. Friday morning, Mom woke up in an obviously excellent mood. She was humming while she made her coffee, practically bouncing around the kitchen with excitement about Diana's arrival. She seemed to have completely forgotten how devastating our conversation had been for me just 12 hours earlier. "Good morning, sweetheart," she said cheerfully as I entered the kitchen. "I hope you slept well. Big day today." I forced myself to smile and act normal. "Morning, Mom. What time is Diana supposed to get here?" "Around 2 o'clock this afternoon. She is driving down with all their belongings, so it might take her a while to unload everything." Mom poured herself a second cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. You have been looking for a place to stay, right? I hope you found something suitable. I buttered my toast slowly, keeping my voice level and calm. Do not worry about me, Mom. I will figure something out. Oh, good, I knew you would be reasonable about this. Diana really needs our support right now, and those children deserve a stable environment. Mom checked her phone and smiled. Actually, I should probably leave around noon to drive up and help her with the kids and luggage. You know how chaotic moving can be with little ones. This was perfect, even better than I had hoped for. That sounds like a great idea. I am sure Diana will appreciate the help. Mom finished her breakfast and started getting ready for her day. She took extra time with her hair and makeup, wanting to look nice for Diana's arrival. Around 10:30, she called out to me from the bedroom. I am heading out now, honey. Diana texted that they left Portland earlier than expected, so I want to meet them halfway and follow them back here. Drive safely, Mom. Tell Diana I said hello. I will, sweetheart, and Ella. She paused in the doorway, her expression suddenly becoming serious again. I really do think this is for the best. Sometimes we all need a little push to move forward in life. You are absolutely right, Mom. Sometimes we do. The moment I heard Mom's car pull out of the driveway, I grabbed my phone and called the first locksmith company I found online. Hi, I need an emergency lock change service at my house. How soon can someone get here? We have a technician available within the hour, but there will be a rush fee of $50 on top of the regular service charge. That is fine. How much total? $350 for complete lock replacement on 3 entry points. Perfect. I will text you the address. While I waited for the locksmith, I began strategically packing my belongings. I was not taking everything, just the essentials. My clothes, important documents, laptop, the photo albums I had made after Dad died, and a few pieces of jewelry that had belonged to my grandmother. I deliberately left behind items that Mom had grown dependent on, like the coffee maker I had bought last year, the television streaming accounts that were in my name, and most importantly, the Wi-Fi router that I paid for every month. The locksmith arrived exactly 1 hour later, a friendly man named Pete who worked efficiently and asked no questions about why I needed all the locks changed immediately. New keys for the front door, back door, and garage? He said, handing me 3 sets of shiny brass keys. The old keys will not work anymore. Thank you, Pete. This is exactly what I needed. After Pete left, I sat down at the kitchen table and wrote a note on a piece of Mom's favorite stationery. Dear Mom, you were absolutely right. It is time I stopped being a parasite and learned to be independent. I hope you and Diana enjoy your family reunion. Love, Ella. I placed the note prominently on the kitchen counter, where Mom would definitely see it, right next to the coffee maker she used every morning. Then I loaded my car with my belongings and drove to a nice hotel downtown that I had booked online. Before checking in, I made several important phone calls. First, I called the utility companies to disconnect services that were in my name. The internet and cable would be shut off on Monday morning. The electricity bill was in both our names, but since I had been paying my half, I arranged to have my portion removed from automatic payment. Next, I went to the bank and withdrew my money from the shared savings account that Mom and I had opened 3 years ago. Since both our names were on the account, I had every legal right to access those funds. It was money I had contributed from my salary money we had been saving for house improvements that apparently would now benefit Diana instead of me. My final call was to our landlord, Mr. Peterson. I explained the situation and provided him with copies of the lease agreement showing that my name was on it as a co-tenant. I just want to make sure you understand that I still have legal rights to the property, I told him. If there are any issues or if anyone tries to claim I was illegally occupying the house, please refer them to these documents. I understand completely, Ella. Your mother cannot simply remove you from a lease agreement without your consent and proper legal procedures. By 1:30 in the afternoon, I was sitting in my comfortable hotel room watching television and eating room service lunch. My phone was turned on volume up, waiting for the inevitable calls that I knew would be coming very soon. At exactly 2:15 p.m., my phone rang. Mom's name appeared on the caller ID, and I could not help but smile as I answered on the 4th ring. Hello, Mom. How is Diana doing? Ella, what have you done? Our house keys are not working. Diana is standing outside with the children and all her luggage, and none of us can get inside. Mom's voice was already reaching panic levels. I kept my tone perfectly calm and innocent. Oh, that is strange. Did you try jiggling the key? Sometimes the front door lock sticks. Do not play games with me, young lady. You changed the locks, did you not? This is my house. Actually, Mom, according to the lease agreement, it is our house. Both our names are on it, which means I have equal tenant rights. And since you called me a parasite yesterday, I figured parasites probably should not have house keys. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line. In the background, I could hear Diana's voice getting increasingly agitated and the children starting to cry. Ella, you cannot do this. Diana has nowhere else to go. That sounds like a problem you should have considered before kicking me out with 12 hours' notice. I paused to take a sip of my soda. But do not worry, I am sure you can find a nice hotel for Diana and the kids. I hear the Motel 6 downtown has reasonable weekly rates. You cannot leave us stranded outside like this. It is not fair to the children. You are right, it is not fair to children when adults make impulsive decisions without thinking them through. Maybe Diana should have made better life choices instead of assuming family would always bail her out. Another silence followed by muffled arguing between Mom and Diana. Then Mom came back on the line, her voice now attempting to sound reasonable instead of angry. Ella, honey, let us discuss this like adults. Come back here and we can work something out. Oh, now you want to discuss things like adults. That is interesting because yesterday you made a unilateral decision without any discussion at all. I walked over to my hotel room window and looked out at the Seattle skyline. I am quite comfortable where I am, thanks. Where exactly are you? In a lovely hotel room that I paid for with my own money. You know, that money I earned from my job like the independent adult you said I needed to become. The phone calls continued throughout the afternoon and evening. First Mom, then Diana, then Mom again, each conversation becoming more desperate than the last. Diana was furious that she had driven 3 hours with tired, cranky children, only to be locked out of the house she had been promised. Mom was panicking because she had no backup plan and no extra money to put Diana's family in a hotel for more than a night or two. Saturday morning brought a new development. Mom called bright and early, her voice hoarse from crying. Ella, the electricity was shut off. There is no internet, no cable, nothing. How are Diana's children supposed to live like this? That is terrible, Mom. You should probably call the utility companies and set up service in your name. Of course, you will need to pay the connection fees and security deposit since you will be a new customer. But we cannot afford all those deposits and fees. And what about the internet? Diana needs internet access to look for jobs? Well, the internet service was in my name, so when I canceled it, they took their equipment back. You will have to set up new service, which usually takes about a week for installation. A week. We cannot survive a week without internet. Maybe you can use the library. It is free and very quiet, perfect for job searching. Sunday's phone calls were even more frantic. Diana had apparently spent 2 nights at an expensive hotel because everywhere cheaper was booked for the weekend. She was running out of money fast, and the children were confused and upset about why they could not stay in Grandma's house like they had been promised. Diana says you are ruining her children's lives. Mom sobbed into the phone. How can you be so heartless toward innocent children? I am not doing anything to Diana's children, Mom. You are the one who put them in this situation by making promises you could not keep. Did you actually think I would just disappear quietly after you called me a parasite? I did not mean it the way it sounded. Yes, you did. You meant every word, and we both know it. Monday morning brought the most interesting call yet. Mom's voice was different now, less angry and more defeated. Ella, Diana had to leave. She cannot afford to keep paying for hotels, and she found someone in Portland who will let her stay temporarily. So she is gone already. She left this morning. She was very angry and she blamed me for promising her something I could not deliver. She said I was an unreliable mother who does not think things through. I almost felt sorry for Mom in that moment. Almost. That must have been hurtful to hear. The house feels so empty now, and cold. I cannot figure out how to get the heat working properly without the internet to look up instructions. Houses can feel very lonely when you are by yourself. I learned that during my 5 years of supposedly parasitic behavior. Tuesday evening, Mom showed up at my workplace just as I was leaving for the day. She looked terrible, like she had not slept or eaten properly in days. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and her eyes were red from crying. "Ella, please, I need you to come home. I cannot manage everything by myself." "Home? I thought you made it clear that it was not my home anymore." "I was wrong. I said terrible things that I did not mean. I was just trying to help Diana and I handled everything badly." She was crying now, standing right there in the office parking lot where my coworkers could see. "Please forgive me." I looked at this woman who had raised me, who I had loved and cared for through the worst period of her life, who had thanked me by calling me a parasite and throwing me out for the convenience of my irresponsible sister. "I will consider coming back, Mom, but things are going to be very different." It took another week of negotiations, but eventually Mom and I reached an agreement that changed our relationship forever. I agreed to move back into the house, but only under specific conditions that we put in writing. First, I would have my own separate lease agreement with the landlord, making me an official tenant with legal rights that could not be revoked on a whim. Second, we would split all household expenses exactly down the middle, with clear records kept of who paid what. Third, Diana would not be allowed to stay overnight without 2 weeks advance notice and my explicit consent. Most importantly, we established mutual respect as the foundation of our living arrangement. We were no longer operating under a parent-child dynamic where Mom felt entitled to make unilateral decisions about my life. We were two adults sharing a house each with equal rights and responsibilities. When I moved back in, the house felt different. The balance of power had shifted, and Mom seemed to understand that I was no longer the devoted daughter who would sacrifice everything for her comfort. She was more careful with her words, more considerate of my feelings, and more appreciative of my contributions. Diana never forgave either of us for what she called the lockout incident. She found temporary housing with a distant cousin in Oregon and gradually rebuilt her life, but she made it clear that she considered us both unreliable and selfish. Ironically, this was probably the first time in years that Diana was forced to truly stand on her own feet without family support, and she eventually became more independent because of it. The experience taught me something crucial about relationships and self-worth. For years, I had believed that love meant accepting whatever treatment people gave me, especially family members. I thought that being a good daughter meant sacrificing my own needs and happiness for Mom's comfort. But I learned that real love requires mutual respect. When someone treats you badly, even someone you love deeply, you do not help them or yourself by accepting that treatment. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set firm boundaries and stick to them. Mom and I have a better relationship now than we did before this whole situation happened. It is built on honesty instead of guilt, on partnership instead of dependency. She values my contributions because she experienced life without them. I stand up for myself because I learned that I deserve respect. Looking back, I realized that Mom calling me a parasite was probably the best thing that ever happened to our relationship, even though it was incredibly painful at the time. It forced both of us to examine our assumptions and rebuild our connection on healthier ground. I never want to hurt the people I love, but I also know now that protecting someone from the consequences of their actions is not actually protecting them at all. Sometimes people need to learn lessons the hard way, especially when they refuse to listen to gentle correction. The whole experience also taught me that you cannot take family relationships for granted, no matter how much you have sacrificed or how loyal you have been. People will treat you exactly as well as you require them to treat you, and if you do not require respect, you probably will not receive it. Now, I know that sometimes the greatest act of love is teaching someone how to treat you properly, even when that someone is your own mother. Real family supports each other through difficulties, but they do not take advantage of each other's kindness or treat each other as disposable. What happened to me might sound extreme, but it was exactly what was needed to save our family relationship from a toxic pattern that was destroying both of us. Sometimes, you have to be willing to lose something temporarily in order to rebuild it properly. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where family members took advantage of your kindness and generosity? How did you handle it? Did you set boundaries or did you just accept the treatment you were getting? Leave your thoughts in the comments below because I know many of you have faced similar challenges with family dynamics. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to hear more real life stories about overcoming difficult family situations and finding the strength to stand up for yourself. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve to be treated with respect by everyone in your life, especially the people who claim to love you. Sometimes the hardest battles we fight are with the people closest to us, but those battles are often the most important ones for our long term happiness and well being.